DC's finest assemble for the first time, but will the film's troubled production spell certain doom for our heroes? Find out when Johnnie Torch Reviews Justice League. And here normally the theme song would come in, but unfortunately, although I recorded a review of this film back on Sunday, it just didn't work. For some reason, the file was corrupted. It wasn't working. I tried to edit it and re-edit it 3 or 4 times. Still no dice. So I'm sorry this turns out to be a little bit of a later review than expected. Also, of course, right up front, I gotta say, I'm still suffering the effects of this nagging cold, which is another reason why I'm just gonna do this review live now and just good or bad, take it or leave it. Hopefully my voice doesn't sound that bad. I think it sounds pretty good. Listening to the past Torch News Roundup I did, it doesn't seem too noticeable. And again, I don't know how the live streams sound. They usually sound with some garbled audio. I apologize again for that. I thank you so very much for sticking it out. If there is audio difficulties, pardon me if I have any coughing or clearing my throat. And so we will begin our DC Justice League spoiler-filled review. So if you have not seen the movie, it without listening to the spoiler review first, obviously, there's some pretty cool surprises in here. And I'll just say right off the top, you can listen later, but I was nothing short of amazed by it. Spectacular film. And again, I'm sad to hear, because I mentioned this on my last Torch News Roundup, doing too well at the box office, it seems. And that, of course, probably has something to do with the fact that previous films under Zack Snyder's haven't been particularly effective in capturing the DC, to most fans, you know. All right, so as usual, I'm going to try to draw up some images. So if I pause for a moment, I bring up these images so that you'll have some cool stuff to look at. Over an hour of discussing the movie. And this first picture that I'm bringing up, that Superman's in the background. We'll see. All right, first to set the stage, I've gone on record that I haven't particularly liked Zack Snyder's version of the DC characters. Man of Steel for its dour and mopey protagonist, Bond of Batman v Superman for its overlong and pretentious meditation on what it takes to be a hero in the modern world. I appreciate most of the action in the film's second half, including the infamous, much-maligned Martha scene. Like Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman as great attempts, so it was moving in the right direction, in my opinion. I've done reviews on all of the above, including a ranking video that you should check out that gives brief reviews on each film. With that personal history out of the way, of this film's troubled history. To that end, I am going to, let's see. Okay. All right, so we will take a look at the film's troubled history. After the generally poor reception of the DCEU for the most part, a lighter tone and a bit more fun back to the proceedings in the future. But despite that always being the plan, Zack Snyder was forced to step away during the final stages of filming, and Joss Whedon was brought in to oversee completion of the film. He had already helmed 2 Avengers films. I mean, the first one and I think most people are quite happy with. A bit of a different case, so it's not now. Shoots were done, and some elements were rewritten by Whedon, presumably ensuring said lighter tone. Whedon-esque witticisms throughout the film. Despite all this, the film retains a sole directorial credit for Zack Snyder. as co-writer along with Chris Terrio, screenwriter. Now, to the film's credit, this seemingly odd clash of styles is not wildly apparent. Part, at least, very consistent in tone. Blend, I'm going to try to refrain from placing credit or blame too strongly on the heads of any one director. It seems to me, at least, that it's an equal endeavor. I think that, if anything, the structure is probably what to the film, and that's the reason why he's getting credit. I suppose the inserts and stuff done by Whedon doesn't warrant him a credit. The same thing I believe happened with Rogue One, although I'm forgetting the other director that was brought in to film certain sequences and ensure certain elements of the film. This is basically the same thing that happened here. Was completely fine with it. It didn't feel, as I said, off balance. Rogue One didn't really feel like you were watching an incompleted movie or two halves of a completed movie. You melded in to a one consistent tone. I think the film's opening with the scenes of how dire the situation the world has become with the absence of Superman seems decidedly Snyder. A montage in the beginning, and you get to see how basically the world is in terrible. It's basically the kind of world we've seen in Batman v Superman, only with Superman's absence. And I think a few of the more outrageously witty moments, like Batman cracking jokes after getting throttled by Superman, seem decidedly Whedon-esque. He were very blatantly that director. It didn't seem like you could have, oh, I'm bleeding somewhere, in a Zack Snyder film. I don't think Zack Snyder did that. And like I said, the bleak tone at the beginning of, the cops, busting someone that was, or a couple of guys that were trying to grocery store or something, and the homeless guy with a sign saying "I tried." I mean, that sounds Zack Snyder. That doesn't seem like anything Whedon. Apart from that, you could just tell me that either scene was from either director, and I would kind of accept that it was from either one of them. Now, having felt burned by the previous films, I admit to being dubious as to whether or not the film would deliver, but I found it nothing short of amazing. After experiencing the Avengers assembling for the first time, one wondered if you could really experience that type of exhilaration again. All of the DC's finest coming together for the first time on the big screen, it was done about as well as could be expected, given the film's less than firm foundation. Better than Avengers, but I will say it's probably the best DCEU film as of now. A ranking video, I could probably just tell you right now, video, and then watch this one from this point on, and Justice League's number one. I think it's the best DCEU film we've had. DC film we've had since, it's tough to say because Wonder Woman, good film, but this feels like a comic book film. Like, I don't want to make it sound offensive by saying, but Marvel formula and made a DC movie. Now, a lot of people will, cry foul that the Marvel formula is getting tired, it's getting stale or whatever, but we've never seen it really with the DC characters. So it feels very fresh here. It's basically just taking the characters off the page, just taking them as we know them from the animated series. Animated episode of Justice League come to life. It feels very much like that. There's a few things that are different that, of course, wouldn't be in the animated series. Now, another mandate Warner Brothers had was that the film had to clock in at 2 hours, no more, and presumably no less. Seems like that's an unreasonable demand. After all, they have so many characters and so many concepts to introduce, or could only help, right? This film is perfectly paced. Over the long, bloated feel of Batman v Superman, it makes it feel like a brisk ride, as it should. How much you have. It's not about how much time you have, but what you do with the time you have. Example of that. All right, so let me try getting into some of the characters now, and I think let's start with controversial uh, aspects of the film, which was the villain. Let's get into Steppenwolf. Okay, Steppenwolf. All right. All right, so the film's big bad is Steppenwolf, and yes, it's safe to say he's born to be wild. You see what I did there? Yeah, yeah. All right, so he comes to Earth to retrieve the 3 mother boxes that he left behind millennia ago. Now, admittedly, the CGI for the character was a bit uninspired at first, though I thought it did get better by the end. I think from about I'd say the midpoint of the movie on, I think that those scenes, he was fully rendered. It looked like it was a lot more, naturalistic and not puttyish, his face. So, pointed that Steppenwolf was chosen in lieu of Darkseid for this film. I've never been crazy about Kirby's fourth world characters. Steppenwolf was good enough for me. I mean, probably would be better off to have Darkseid involved in a less crowded film anyway, since this story already had to deal with the formation of the League. But in any event, I found Steppenwolf to be suitably formidable. In all honesty, he was far more intimidating a villain than most of his MCU contemporaries. I mean, let's face it, this guy, he was, intimidating, frightening, terrifying, and you felt like down whenever he was on. Fantastic action scenes where he takes on the Amazonians and later the Atlanteans. I just thought the action was amazing with Steppenwolf. And, some could say that he was a villain, but, that's kind of the reason why, like I said, I felt he was more intimidating than the MCU villains. But let's take our MCU villains, Malekith. I think he's kind of comparable to Malekith because better than Malekith on the strength that I think his motivation, his plot is a little bit stronger. Problem with Malekith was his goal the universe into darkness. That's not something anybody can relate to. Is similar in that he just wants to conquer Loki. But what I mean is, I think the motivation is people are not connecting with him, speaking to the mother boxes and the fourth world characters. I don't really know the whole lore of the mother box. I think it's his mother is her essence or something. And it's very difficult to figure out. And I think that's why a lot of people probably, it didn't resonate with them. As far as Darkseid's concerned, like I said, I didn't miss him. They name drop him, they reference him, so he, they're basically setting the stage for him to. And reshoots have dropped the sequel to this film. Now, if you see the after credits tag, really obvious. We'll get into that later. I don't want to get into that right now. I would just want to get into the characters first right now. I thought the battle on Themyscira was amazing. That was just a perfect battle. I loved seeing Wonder Woman's mother again. Hot actress. And of course, there's the controversy, and I don't really want to get into it. I really don't. This is a spoiler review, and I don't want to get into the. There's some, complaints that in this version of Themyscira, the Amazonians bear midriff. Now, like I said, I wasn't really going to even get into this, but the fact is that we've seen in the movie, not all of them are wearing the bare midriff. And you can tell that they are dressed appropriately for their occupation. Now, if you'll notice, the mother box, they are not seeing battle. They're not wearing armor all over their torso. Or is to seal the chamber whenever something gets in there they don't want to get out. Mallets, whatever you want to call them, sledgehammers, and they knock down the pillars so that that would be very cumbersome wearing a full suit of armor. They got the bare midriff, and I don't see why people can't see these things being explained. It's very childish the way that a lot of people have criticized some of the uh, aspects of Wonder Woman being in this film. I just found it completely ridiculous that anybody should have any complaints about any of that. Just leave it at that. But watch it again, and I'm sure you can see the behind the Amazonian wardrobe in this case. Let's go on to some of the heroes now. That was Steppenwolf we were talking about. Let's see. What do we do? How's about we go to Batman first? Okay. All right. So Wonder Woman carry most of the weight of the film. They both got very cool action scenes at the beginning of the film, solo action scenes, and that's how it starts. A very Batman 89-ish scene where he's taking on a pretty, I don't know, a pretty thug. I think articulate's the word I want to use. Verbose for being like a thug. I mean, I was expecting like Batman 89. It was just going to be, don't kill me, man. Don't kill me, man. But this guy was like, the aliens are coming and they're going to. Superman isn't here, aren't they? I just thought it was kind of funny. I guess, where, it kind of set the stage for the film was going to be like. Set the tone, I think. A little more Batman Forever than Batman 89. Well, that's probably not fair either because that was even more heightened as a. And of course, Batman Forever is my favorite of the 90s Batman films, including Batman 89, as an insult. But yeah, getting back to it, so this Batman figures out the parademons are attracted to fear, or they hone in on fear, and the crook is bait to try to draw out a parademon and see if that theory holds true. Very cool action scene. Of course, as you've seen in the trailers, Batman's tasked with recruiting both Aquaman and the Flash. He wants none of it, but Flash is more than receptive. The character Batman, you can tell, really progressed in this film from. He was a pretty unsympathetic character in Batman v Superman. You can really feel the growth he's gone through as a person. Fairly unlikable, I think, in Batman v Superman. It's like a completely different person here. I don't think Batman v Superman quite sold this epiphany he had all that well. He was just like, doggone it. Superman was right all along, and he was this great paragon of virtue, and gee, I was a real dunderhead. Sell that well. And that's what I think this film had to overcome. The challenges of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the Trinity, as this happy, functioning, if not, crime-fighting unit. Happy, functioning together. Well, in Dawn of Justice, Wonder Woman knew both these guys for like 10 minutes. Didn't really know each other. They were at each other's throats until Batman, they were, friends for a couple of minutes before Superman's untimely death. The film isn't built on a very firm foundation. So against it extremely well, making it feel like the version of the heroes that you all know and love from the comics and from the animated series. I could buy here with the passage of time that Bruce understands the world needs Superman more than it needs him. A progression of time from that scene with the thug. And he's with Aquaman, he's got the beard, and then, he's going to be trying to find Aquaman. And that took some time, obviously, for him to have the beard, and then he comes back and shaves it. And, so there's a passage of time. This worked on Bruce's mind all this time, but Superman doesn't really see it so much, but what Superman meant to the world. And, I thought they captured that very well. I think Ben Affleck pulled off the role admirably, and it makes it all the more disappointing if he indeed out of the DCEU, because they're going to continue on with Batman, if nothing else. I mean, right now either, but you got to remember that people are all already crying doom and gloom that the film is going to not make back enough box office for, a full slate of DCEU films. More later if we have time at the end of this, but I think definitely the Batman is still on the table. It's their cash cow. They're not going to let him go off into that good night. Affleck is still contracted to do the Batman, so, unless he completely backs out of it and refuses, they're going to ask for his services. As well, they should. All right. Now, is there anything that I didn't like? Well, I didn't like Batman's character. We do see him kill again. All the characters kill kind of. I don't know if I should put this in with my dislikes. Maybe I'll mention again when I do the dislikes of the film, the things I didn't like, the negatives. What stuck out to me was him using a laser gun, like a parademon laser gun, left and right. Now, part of it bothers me because we're told in the flashback about the flashback too, that was Boss, but we'll get to that in a second, I guess, with the Wonder Woman segment when I talk about Wonder Woman. But I don't believe Batman should ever use a gun. He shouldn't be holding a gun. That should not be something he does. I understand with the Batmobile and stuff, with the bat wing or whatever they call the using in this film. He's going to have guns. He's going to have bombs. It's not really the biggest problem to me because, he can shoot down doors. He can blow up buildings that kind of dangerous equipment or something. That's fine. But holding a handgun is something that I don't think Batman would do. This is not really a handgun. It's a laser rifle or whatever. But still, that kind of struck me odd. Just one of the few things that I really didn't care for that, well, the parademons, at least the first generation parademons were human. I don't know what that means for them at this stage because that was millennia ago. It's also, you got to wonder if he's killing an actual human, which would be completely against his code. The parademons were pretty much cannon fodder. If I'm just going to talk about the parademons for a minute, I thought they were visually realized really nice. The Justice League plow through them regardless, but anyways, so yeah, I thought Ben Affleck looked great. The costume looked great, nice and colorful. Sort of that bulky look of Batman. So I mean, completely svelte. They're still using like that Frank Miller drawing. I don't know if he drew that or yeah, I guess he drew it. Dark Knight Returns. It's kind of bulky, and you kind of wonder if maybe they could. Seeing, I was speaking of like Batman Forever. I love seeing a blue Batman costume, and the color is more akin to like the blue. Actually, they probably had Batman and Robin. I think was the only time they kind of blued it up. But I love that look. I mean, you can't blame Batman and Robin. Just use that color. You don't have to use that costume. And I think they did dark of a tone, but they still use a pretty good color here for costume. It's great. On now to Wonder Woman, and she too got a very boss action scene at the beginning. she was. There we go. Oh, she looks so happy. She's so cute. So yeah, that she had a real boss action scene when she started off um the film, and she's on the scales of Lady Liberty there, and there's a supposed to be, they really didn't explain that well, that they were some kind of like cult or secret society or something, and they wanted to blow up a bank, I guess, to try to run shockwaves through the world. Anyway, so that was a great action scene, and she bursts through, and we get to see her taking on a machine gun, which was really great with the bracelets. That never gets old. Do it. I'm never gonna get tired of seeing Wonder Woman bounce the bracelets off. I think what they like to do more now is do the bracelets together. That's with you. I mean, it didn't bother me in this film, but I mean, that's kind of a tiresome power. It's like, just gonna bang the bracelets together and push everybody back. Off, it's like, that takes some skill. I mean, you can't just throw those things on anybody and say, hey, block these bullets with your bracelets. Like only Wonder Woman can do. So when I see her do that, I'm like, yeah, that's like, that's something she's trained for. It's just like a unique signature move to her. So I thought that was great. And like I said, the action scene was great. Her costume, again, looked great. Like I said, the colors magnified a little bit. The color was boosted up. I would say that I think she honestly stole the show here. I think that, having said that, I have to say that I think every character got a fair amount of screen time. I don't think like anybody was. There was no Hawkeye. Although I think I'll make a comparison later on with that. I think everybody had a great amount of screen time here, and it worked out pretty well for everyone. Given short shrift, the way Wonder Woman is portrayed, she's like the perfect leader. I like that Bruce challenged her later on in the film, in that scene where he's like bringing up Steve Trevor to get her goat, and he's like saying, "Why aren't you being the role model that?" And he strikes a nerve by saying this, but I thought that was really well done because she needed like that push, and she ends up taking that and doing the right thing with it, and she does become a positive role model by the end of the film. When you see her at the end of the film, that's her full, so to speak, where she ends up embracing that she's a leader. And I think that's what one of the best qualities of this Wonder Woman in particular, leader. Now, I don't think that she was given really a romantic man there. I don't think they were trying to pair them up romantically. Did that to an extent with Justice League the animated series. Right thing to do. I really don't want to see her paired up with Batman or Superman for that matter. I like it when they just stick to their significant others, so to speak. I mean, Superman's always only going to have eyes for Lois. Trevor is going to be the love of Wonder Woman's life. Batman's got Catwoman, Talia, unless he has Vicky Vale, unless he has, I don't know. But anyway, I like it better that way. So I really was glad they didn't lean on that much. They had a little scene, that nice little scene in there when Wonder Woman puts on the toga and arm Batman because he got his arm out of his socket after the, about that later too. That was a great scene. But I think that was, because that was another thing I loved about the film, is that they're always in their civilian costumes. I mean, you don't see Tony Stark walking around with the costume on and the helmet off, and some kind of chintzy Captain America-esque jacket, walked around in their costumes pretty much the whole time. I think Bruce Wayne walking around the Batman costume without the Batman mask. It was great. I love that. I mean, that's what I expect from these guys. Their costumes are a second skin. Them off and be like, oh, I'm going to wear jeans now and we're going to talk about our problems. No, they're getting ready for battle. They're going to get out there at a moment's notice and they're going to do battle thought to what they're wearing. And I think bringing this back to Wonder Woman, I'm saying is movies. That's why I think a lot of people, again, I don't want to really devolve into talking about controversy, but a lot of people are woman and, you know, they want to talk about this male gaze crap and everything because she actually wore her costume for, you know, I'd say a good 75% of the movie. Wonder Woman's solo film, she wears the big heavy coat. You really don't see her wearing the costume all that time. And I realize part of it is probably real world issue of, you know, the climate. She's walking around, you know, Gal Gadot, you know, the forest and whatever, and, you know, she's wearing basically a swimsuit type outfit. Wonder Woman, we're not supposed to be having her wearing a fur coat. We're not supposed to be having her. And I think the toga was sort of a token. Yeah, when she's in her, you know, mode, when she's in reclining garb, she doesn't necessarily just walk around in the costume. She'll throw a, you know, toga over it or whatever. Appropriate. I mean, I don't think it was needed, but I'm trying to say that something like that, where she was going to wear something over her costume, like I said, for recreational purposes while they're waiting for the next, seemed to work pretty well. All right, now the characterization of Wonder Woman. This was something I really liked. Should be the mother of the superhero world, and I think they captured that here. And consequently, I've always said Superman is the father figure of the superhero world, you know, universe, and Batman is sort of the loner uncle, you know, if we can assign that role to him. All those relationships were perfect here, because you see them bringing the in, so to speak, or, you know, with Cyborg and the Flash and Aquaman. They got those relationships great in the characterization. The way she reacts to the Flash, she's treating him like a mother character would. Because he, you know, we'll get to the Flash in a minute, but he's like completely too much so. I thought it was pretty cool. I just thought that Wonder Woman was great. I thought she stole a show. Again, Gal Gadot just did a great job. They're still going to be making Wonder Woman 2, I'm sure, after this. This is it's just great. The action scenes with her taking on Steppenwolf also. Her and Aquaman pretty much held the brunt of the battle. Enjoyed it. All right, so we'll move on now to the Flash and Miller as the Flash. Now, it's you know, it's kind of unfair because good, and I don't want to sort of, you know, have to compare the two because you know, Grant Gustin is so good, but I think that they really did do one kind of Flash here, but I think he was needed for this film. I think you needed to have a character that was sort of on the outside looking in like this. That maybe they leaned on his being green a little too much, completely unskilled, you know, that he was never tested or tried before in Suicide Squad, but he basically just Captain Boomerang was trying to rob a bank. So that really doesn't count as battle. He's the biggest source of humor in the film, and that's also straight from the Justice League animated series, I think. Something that, you know, the Wally West Flash was a little bit more known for in the Justice League animated series. But I didn't really mind it. I mean, you know, it worked well here, and I don't think feel too from the Barry Allen of the TV show. I mean, they just made him a little more zany, a little more neurotic, which was fine because Allen exists strictly within the confines of a team. Gustin Flash, he's basically the star of a show. You know what I mean? So the Flash in a team, and it's the same thing as the animated series. He becomes the funny one. He becomes the least, educated, so to speak, of the team, the less battle savvy, and he's more, oh sure, you want me to do this, I'll do it. And Batman's gonna tell him, no, you gotta think before you do things. I got from it more the Justice League animated series version. Miller brings a lot of humor and a good naivete to the role. And point, I thought that he was really enjoyable. They had that great scene with Bruce Wayne in the lab or wherever it was that he met Bruce Wayne. We saw most of it in the trailer, so it but he had like a great chemistry with all the actors. I think the Flash did with all the characters, and with Wonder Woman, as I said, it felt like pretty much that character to him, and it was just great. And you've seen the camaraderie between him and Cyborg, which we'll get to Cyborg in a second. Yeah, he had a lot of funny lines too in the film. The Pet Cemetery lines and stuff. You just did a great job. So we'll move on now, and let's take a look at we'll take a look at Cyborg now. Alrighty. Takes a second here because all right. So right. Ray Fisher as Cyborg. Yeah, I thought Ray Fisher did a great job too. He had like this very calm presence about him, didn't he? He was in control of every situation. He didn't seem like kind of wanted, like I said before, on when I was, building up to these when we were looking at all the trailers and everything. They don't want him to be the jokey one because just coming to terms with what he is. And so I can understand that. They don't want to make him, a source of comedy and yucks and stuff because he's basically lost his humanity. So I like that. I think that was fine. I remember Cyborg being my main concern. A bland character, judging by the trailers. Like I said, a stoic. Okay, I'll take it from here. At the end of the movie, which was a nice nod. Came across much better than advertised. I got to say, I was impressed with him every minute he was on the screen. I thought he was going to be like a character that was like, okay, Cyborg, yeah, that's nice. You can fool computers. Do that, and then just let's get to the heavy hitters. But this guy was on the screen. I would like to see a Cyborg solo film, but it's going to happen still, even though it was announced, and I think they sort of backed away from it. But the problem is, and I'll admit it, I think he doesn't have a widely known supporting cast. Now, he's got his dad in this film, which I was actually happy to see his dad survive. I said, oh, he's going to die, and that's going to be part of his arc or something. But no, he survived, and everything was cool. I don't really know that he has a great rogues gallery because are encompassed with Cyborg being in the Teen Titans. Cyborg is from the Teen Titans. Characters to me are Starfire and Beast Boy and Robin / Nightwing or whatever, Kid Flash. Too much in the comics from what his. I don't think he's ever had a solo series. Maybe he has. I don't know, but keep him maybe from getting a solo film. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. That's what I was trying to allude to earlier. Is there a Hawkeye in this film? One that noticeably got the short shrift in the Avengers because to Solo in that film until the very end. Sense, I don't think he's the Hawkeye of this film, Cyborg, but he's the Hawkeye in the sense that a Solo film. If you put a Hawkeye film out, in it, I want to see, you put Captain America in it, though, it's going to become a Captain America movie, but that's sort of the same thing here. I mean, Cyborg movie, I'd like to see the Flash in it, but then again, it becomes like a Flash movie, Flash/Cyborg. I don't know if, the plans for him getting a Solo, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I was really impressed with this character. It was great, and you saw how he came from, coming to terms with what he was, what he become, you know, embraced being a superhero. I mean, with him in Wonder Woman, that was sort of her task to bring him out. Again, I keep hitting this note, but that's sort of the mothery aspect I felt between them two as well. I mean, she was like a mother superhero bringing him into the fold. The CGI looked pretty good. There was maybe one or two scenes where it looked kind of phony, but he was walking. It was a little like, yeah, I don't know. But for the most part, the CGI looked amazing. I didn't really have problems with the CGI in this film. We'll talk about that later, as we wrap up. Bad as a lot of people say, like I said, at the beginning, Steppenwolf wasn't really rendered that great. Maybe a couple of scenes, his Cyborg's body wasn't that great. But overall, I think for the most part, it worked for me anyway. I didn't have a problem too much with look. Cyborg. Let's move on now to our last number, and we all know who this guy is. My man. Oh yes, Aquaman. Now, Jason Momoa wasn't the obvious choice for me for this character. I was expecting someone to be a little more uptight, and the way they kind of portrayed him in the animated series. Which, to be honest, I wasn't crazy about the way they treated him in the animated series. They might even give that to him in the future. Who knows? But I didn't like the way they did him in the animated series because he was like this regal, uptight. Like I said, it didn't work for me as a actor. He was more like, get out of my domain and never darken my door. It felt very melodramatic and stuff. But this guy, and no nonsense tough guy that the team needs. I mean, everybody's got to have that tough guy on their team. Man's role was in this one. He was like the tough guy, no nonsense, hard drinking. He just went off and I just love what he brought to the role, Jason Momoa, in this. Looked somewhat different than the comics. I'm a stickler for having them look like they do in the comics. In the comics, though, he did go through this, the long hair and the beard. I mean, I was like the old school look of the orange shirt and the blonde hair, but they could have completely bleached his hair blonde. Maybe that would have given the effect a little bit more of a comic book flavor, but it was fine. And he had the good kind of like, it looks like seaworthy. You know what I mean? It looks like something you'd see in Atlantis. You know what I mean? It's soldiers, whatever had. They look like they had a similar garb. It just worked for me anyway. Yeah, it felt a lot like the Batman Brave and the Bold uh, Aquaman character, like sort of cheesy with his like outrageous. He was more like my man. It just, I don't know. It was just great. I just love seeing the way he interacted with them, especially the interactions with Batman. Um, that was just great. I mean, I thought he did a great job. Uh, Also, I really liked the Atlantean setting, and I liked the, the way that they um I'm going to bring it up here in a second if I can find it. All right. They did this conversation with Mera, or Mera. That's right, Mera. A cameo here. Oh, she's so pretty. And that was a great scene. Laid out Arthur Curry's origin in that scene. I thought that was so great because completely from the page to me. I was something along the lines of, my mother left me on my father's doorstep, and like, she had to do that because she was the queen. It was just a great scene because it lays out everything you need to know about Aquaman's origin right there in just a couple of lines of dialogue. So the Aquaman solo film, I'm still dying to see that. It's going to take a full year. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, tomorrow. I can't believe we got to wait a full year for that one. But, even if they don't give us a flashback or anything, that really is all you needed right there to tell you the whole thing, to tell you the whole story. And again, the costume for Mera looked great. She looked great. The tiara she was wearing looked great. The colors looked great. And about the wave they had to create, that air portal she made for them to talk there, to have them talk underwater. But it's going to seem weird having them silent in their own film until they get into an air chamber. I mean, they all live underwater, don't they? And I think James Wan, I think the director of Aquaman, said that that's not what he's going to do in his film. Those scenes were shot, I bet, by Zack Snyder, who takes like a more realistic approach. Yeah, and also, I just remember the scene bearing his soul while he's sitting on the golden lasso. That was so great because he's saying, we're probably going to die. I don't want to die. I'm too young. I got things I want to do. And, that was so funny. That was great. That was just one of those great scenes. Yeah, that's just, Jason Momoa was a lot of fun. He the role that I don't think many other could, because you got to remember, Aquaman was kind of like a joke for this film. They kind of played on that too, where he was like, Bruce Wayne's like, do you talk to fish? Do you really talk to fish? And that was pretty funny. And speaking of Golden Lasso, I'm so excited that they showed Wonder Woman using the lasso. I think the first film depended on her with the sword too much, to be honest with you. That's kind of why I like this film, because although they got Wonder Woman right in her own film, got her even more right in this setting. Because, like I said, now she's more, and she's being a leader and interacting with other heroes. It just felt like more genuine. But anyhow, so I loved it. I can't wait to see in his own solo movie. That's going to be something worth seeing. Let's move on now to the final member of the Justice League. Do we have another member of the Justice League in this film? Oh, yes, we do. And it really shouldn't come as much of a surprise to anyone, but yes, indeed, Superman returns. Yes, he does. Let me sip a little H2O. Swimming in that. All right, let's be honest. We all knew he was coming back, right? Superman, this is not a surprise, is it to anyone? I have to admit, when all said and done about this whole movie, they finally gave Superman the treatment he deserves. Yes! I love this Superman. I love this film. This is the best we've seen Superman since Christopher Reeve. I have to say nothing, it's nothing against Brandon Routh. That's nothing against what Henry Cavill has done before this. Superman the way he was supposed to be written. They finally wrote him from the cartoon, from the animated series, from the Christopher Reeve films. Much different than he does here. I think it was very comparable, like I said again, to the animated series. I just felt like the animated series Superman They gave us, let's start at the beginning. They gave us a taste of love in the first scene when he's talking to some 6-year-olds or something. That was, a great way to open the film. It gets Superman up front where he's supposed to be. Like I said, he's the father of all superheroes. He's the daddy of all superheroes. You go to daddy first, Superman. And that's also another thing. I mean, it wasn't an action scene, but again, to bring back Batman and Wonder Woman's opening action scene. I'm going to talk about the opening of the film right now. In the film, you have the scene with Superman. You open the film with Batman having an action scene. You open the film with Wonder Woman having an action scene. And the Superman. Where was that? We sat around and did nothing for about 45 freaking minutes in that film. On the roof for like 30 seconds. What the heck was that all about? We see Superman going and, a montage of him off the roof. And we can't get him to take a cat out of a tree in these movies. He says, oh, that's not macho or anything. But one person off a roof and then, dragging a boat behind him, and we're considered the feats of Superman. This film opened the way a superhero film should. We started with the hope. It's about the hope, the S on his chest. And then we move on to the action scenes of Batman, why he does what he does, Wonder Woman doing what she does. That is the way you open a movie. And I can tell, honestly, when I sat and watched Batman v Superman, that movie, with the flashback, and not the way you do the Batman flashback. I mean, you've got, Thomas Wayne lunging at the gunman. I don't really see that. It's one thing if they do it the way they did it with Batman '89. He's going for the pearl necklace or something, and then he like tries to protect his wife. Obviously, it's like trying to gung ho, give the guy the bum's rush or something, and and he gets shot. Obviously, it makes Thomas Wayne stupid. I don't want to get on a tirade about Batman v Superman, but what I was trying to say is the way they opened Batman v Superman. As soon as I saw the bats, 10-year-old Bruce Wayne up to the ceiling or to the portal or whatever it was I knew I was in for trouble. I knew I was in for a lousy movie, to be honest with you, because I knew they were going to, just make it pretentious and all the kind of crap. And I wasn't wrong, really, but like I said, I don't hate Batman v Superman. I think is really good. I mean, it's not exceptionally good, but it is really good. Before earlier, if I want to explain that, stance, I think if they had built up the relationship between Batman and Superman better through that film, just sort of becoming fast friends, it would have held more resonance. But still, from the Martha scene on, from the fight scene on, from the from the first meeting of them on that roof, that was good. But yeah, so bringing it back to what we're talking about here before I get on to a real tirade, but beginning of the film with Superman opening the film and the hope that he brings. Movie. I knew I was in for the accurate Superman that I've been waiting for. Now, I'm like, are they going to ruin this at some point? Are they going to ruin this at some point? Are they going to ruin this at some point? They nailed Superman this time. They got his character. This movie should be heralded for bringing Superman back to what the fans wanted. Now, I know there's a lot of fans that'll be like, oh, he was all right in Man of Steel and this and that. Poppycock, really. That was not Superman. And have the old-fashioned Superman. Those same people complaining about not wanting old-fashioned Superman love this Superman depiction in this film as well. So come on. This is the way Superman was meant to be depicted. Again, great performance. He does a great job as Superman. He's finally getting to play Superman. He's finally getting to play the Superman he wanted to play. He's finally getting to play the Superman we wanted him to play. Alone just deserves so much praise. for the film. So everybody pretty much is in character. Superman. I mean, I think they ruined Batman's character a little bit too in Batman v Superman. Unlikable. But, they kind of, I understand they were playing up, he felt that Superman had caused destruction and everything. And, so I understand. And right. They got Wonder Woman right, of course. Wonder Woman was pretty much always right, but it was just wonderful. All right, I will say that the big controversy, let's talk about the mustache. Your father's mustache. Mustache controversy, if you don't know, which I'm sure you must, if you're watching this if you're going to watch this whole video, you probably know about it. But Henry Cavill has got a mustache because he's playing in Mission Impossible 37. So when it was time for him to come back for reshoots, they naturally assumed that he could shave the mustache, put on a fake one at Mission Impossible. Paramount said, no, you're not shaving that mustache, son. No, 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 no. Warner Brothers was forced to use the CGI budget to replace the real-life mustache that during the whole movie. A lot of people are saying, oh, his mouth looks so phony, looks so bad and everything. I only noticed it pretty much in that opening, like I said, with the kids talking to him, because they're using a grainy footage to make it look like it's, used on a cheapo phone or something. There, I think maybe it was noticeable one or two more times in the film. I can't really remember. There was only one or two brief scenes where I said, oh, it looks a little, but I don't think it was an issue. It looks like something that you would have noticed if you were looking for it. If you weren't looking for it, you probably wouldn't register. And if you didn't know that they had done this with the mustache, you probably wouldn't notice. Scenes where you do notice, and it's because you know what to look for. I would just go, oh, that kind of looks off. What happened? Oh, well, you wouldn't think nothing of it. But yeah, but I didn't really have any problems with the mustache either. A lot of people complained about it. Looked a little wonky, one or two scenes. That's all. All right, now let's talk about the return, Superman's return. I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people are saying, well, we've seen the dust rise off the coffin at the end of Batman v Superman. It's like legitimately dead, and they needed to do something to bring him back. Maybe he wasn't really dead. Batman v Superman. It's one of those things where you just kind of have to let it go at some point. But this, he probably wasn't, because, as Batman said, his body doesn't degenerate under a yellow sun. He doesn't decompose, in other words. So he was probably like more of in a suspended animation or something until Jumpstart, that sort of a defibrillator that the Flash provided with chemicals and the mother box power. For me, it was fine. I thought it was great. Didn't give me any. I didn't have any problems with it. I don't know. The Flash had to sort of rise to the occasion. It was sort of like a challenge for him, the first challenge for him. I can understand the way they had the, like I said, the controversy between Batman and it worked out. It worked out. Now there was the fight scene. That was, stop and talk about that for a minute, where Superman fights the Justice League. That was a great scene. That was so great. I admit it was a little contrived that Cyborg's arm blaster goes off inadvertently. This was one of the best scenes in the film. The best scene is when the Flash, Superman, by coming up from behind him, he's got like the other three members by the throat, coming up from behind Superman, and Superman turns his face. On the Flash's face is like priceless, and then Superman just clobbers the Flash because the Flash obviously wasn't expecting Soup to be as fast as he is. that fast. And that's what was great about this too, is they didn't depower him. A lot of times they wanted to power him because they have this like concept, oh, powered. How can anybody, really stand a chance against him? Well, yeah, brother, that's because he's Superman. That's why he's supposed to be the big gun of, whenever somebody's the real deal, like was in this movie, although I think Darkseid probably would have given him a hard time, but man, because he is the real deal. He has all the powers. He's got the strength that like nobody else can touch. He's got the speed equal, if not more than the Flash. I would say equal. I don't know if he's faster than the Flash. We'll get to that in a second. But and the costume looked great. The colors, they finally boosted that blue, that red, those Christopher Reeve colors. It just looked great. The costume looked great. We see him smile. We see him crack a joke at the end there when he's, after he separates the mother boxes and he's laughing. He's cracking a joke. That's Superman. How can you be against this kind of portrayal of Superman? This is the Superman we've waited for. And, he finally got that opportunity here, Henry Cavill. I hope he enjoyed it because, it took him 2 movies to get here, but finally we're here. And we finally got to see the freezing breath. I guess we'll jump ahead now a little bit to the final battle, but the freezing breath is what takes down, Steppenwolf's axe. And, that's like a power we haven't seen since, I don't know, probably Superman 4. It's like the power Superman has. I always feel like they overuse the heat vision on Supergirl. They kind of use the heat vision all the time because it's like Superman isn't Cyclops. He uses it here on Steppenwolf as well, which is fine. I'm not saying he can't ever use the heat vision, but I'm saying he's not Cyclops. He doesn't use that to just blast people. It's supposed to be heat vision. If he's got to melt something or set something afire or something like that, it's not that it is for like an Omega beam just to blast somebody. So the powers are great. Loved seeing the powers. Gee, what else? Steppenwolf, we didn't really get to see relationship with Darkseid because they, like I said, cut that part out. And that he's Darkseid's uncle. And I don't know how much of that was in the original version of the film, but yeah, that would be interesting to find out what happened there. All right, let's talk about the and we also got. I'm sorry if I'm looking at my notes a little bit because I don't want to forget anything. Came back from the movie basically a half hour before I started this recording, just in time for me to grab a little. But yeah, I just came back from it, so it's still fresh in my mind. But I do have some notes here to try to remember some of the few things that I might have forgotten. But iconic shirt rip too. Remember the shirt rip that we all wanted to see? We haven't seen that since I had one, but that in the DCEU yet because Clark Kent hasn't had much substance in these films. They haven't showed us Clark Kent doing a whole lot. He reported something in Batman v Superman, but I'm not saying they didn't use him at all, but we don't get that look up into the sky moment the way we did here. And of course, Lois Lane, basically. But we got the shirt rip. I wish we could have got the theme song right there. We'll talk about the theme song in a second. I want to talk about that independently. Yeah, the taking off the glass, just the shirt rip, the jumping up into the air. Finally, the fans a taste of what they wanted. It's long for it. I don't understand. That's why I said I don't think Zack Snyder, that's what fans wanted from their Superman. We want the iconic moments. We want the moments that make us stand up and say, yeah, that's Superman. Oh, yeah. Also, yeah. All right. So we're going to go on to a different segment here before I talk about this, but this was also great too. But just once more, say once again just how perfect Superman was in this film, and finally got Superman right in the DCEU. I just pray that we get a Man of Steel 2 so that we can see more of this League 2. But we'll get into that in a second. What I think is going to happen for Justice League 2, because of that in the post-credit scene. While we're talking about Superman, let me also mention the first post-credit scene, because there wasn't anything leading up to future films. That was just a nice little nod. Classic Flash and Superman race. They had it in the comics and the animated episodes, I think, of Superman the animated series. I don't think it was Justice League. I think it was Superman the animated series that had that one. Yeah. Like an iconic thing. And that was just so great. It was just like that was just another of the many moments that made this film feel like the animated series episode come to life. It felt like they really got in touch with what these characters are. They're just the light enter between the two, and I didn't understand though why finally took off that Superman was flying while the Flash was running. I mean, isn't it supposed to be a race? I mean, both of them running. I didn't know about that. I thought that was a little strange, but at least they have the iconic race, and that's something that I didn't think we'd ever see in a movie. And this is it. It's fine. We're finally here. I can't see how anyone who's a Justice League fan or Superman from the animated series, how can you not like this film? I don't understand it. But anyhow, yeah, just great. Going on a long time, I guess, with this segment, but yeah. And like I said, the end of the movie, the final battle, of course, with Steppenwolf, of a boss he is in battle too, Superman. Magnificent. He doesn't flinch. Return with the truth and justice. They still won't let him say the American way, but it just good. We got Superman back. We haven't had him in so long. We finally got Superman back. To behold, and then the battle with Steppenwolf, as I said, to end that, we don't really know what happened to him. I guess on him because he lost his axe, and then he had fear because Superman broke the axe with Wonder Woman, smashed it or whatever. But so he probably can come back in a sequel. I don't know if they would like other than a flunky. I mean, but I thought it was good. The old cliche of sort of like the parademons turning on him because he was using them to prey on the fear of others, and now they're preying on his fear. A reversal. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was really cool. This is the next segment we're going to do, but again, Superman. Oh, loved it. Okay, but speaking of reversals, I thought this was really cool. The use of Lois Lane in this film. Let's talk about Lois, the beautiful Amy Adams. They had a good amount of her in it. I was kind of worried that maybe she'd get pushed aside for a lot of the other characters that need to be made room for. But they gave her, I felt, enough time. We'll get into that in a second. But first, as I was saying, reversal. Now, she had the pivotal moment of stopping Clark from killing Batman, and a clever reversal of how she stopped Bruce from killing Clark. Man, remember that? So I thought it was very clever here the way they did this. Batman's going to kill Superman in Batman v Superman. And she's the one that has to explain to Batman, Martha's his mother's name. And he wants you to help save his mother. And in this case, it's like she's the only one that can stop Superman from killing Batman because he sees Batman. Of that, the way they turn that line of Batman's back on him when Superman says to him, Do you bleed? That was great. That's the way you do it. Was too far afield. And so Lois, you know, automatically, of course, brings mind back to him. So, you know, it's like she had that effect on Batman too, because she clarified what was going on and she brings Superman's mind. So I would say Lois' superpower seems to be keeping these two from killing each other. I thought it was just great. I thought that was clever. And, you know, I think if anything, the they may have cut a little bit too much out from her though, because I think maybe because, like I said, I really liked the runtime being about 2 hours. It didn't feel bloated at all. It didn't feel overlong at all. I thought every scene was important. I think maybe if we got one more scene of Lois and Clark together in the middle, in this portion where he's like trying to remember and everything, maybe if I was to say put anything back in the film, maybe put another segment of Lois and Clark back into that segment there when he's trying to remember. But I really like the way they left it, though. She says, I wish it would have took you longer to remember everything because now I got to send you away again. I thought that was just a great line because that's all she really wants is to have him back. You know, the world needs Superman. And you kind of get that feeling again, too, that classic trope of these two apart because the world needs Superman. And that was like, you know, a very integral part of Superman 2. Never set one above the rest. I think he says that in Superman 4, actually. I actually like Superman 4 more than most people, so I can quote Superman 4. But so the point is, that also felt very back to basics. That felt like the Superman-Lois relationship that we should have had, although, you know, they hinted that very important in Batman v Superman. So I'm not going to say that their relationship wasn't given a good focus, but I think that one scene held more weight than any of the rest of their scenes in the previous two films. For me, anyway. All right, also, we got Martha back, which was a nice surprise. I didn't think they were really going to do anything with Martha, but they did give her time, sort of the Aunt May role, you know, where she doesn't have a whole lot to do, but comes in for a few moments. I particularly liked the fact that she wasn't giving Clark negative advice anymore. She wasn't telling him not to be a hero. She just didn't say anything, but maybe that was in some edited scenes. I don't know, but it would have been nice to hear her actually encouraging Clark to, you know, fulfill his role as the world's protector. I don't know. Call me crazy, but I kind of like to see Ma Kent, his role as Superman. But you know, it's you know, it's better than having her do the opposite. If they don't show her this advice, then at least they're not showing him advice from her. All right, so let's see. Let's talk about the cameos now because we got a bunch of cameos. I put them in this order, so we'll talk about them in this order. We have, we all love him. We got Commissioner Gordon, played by J.K. Simmons. Oh yeah, J.K. Simmons. Man, he was so great as J. Jonah Jameson. You would object to ever seeing him play that role again because he was so great. He's getting a little bit older now, and he's playing Commissioner Gordon. He looks pitch perfect for it, though. The page. It looks like 1980s Batman comics. I opened it up, and then J.K. Simmons came out. So that was just great. I loved seeing him. A few nice moments with him. They didn't overplay his role. Some putting on the bat single again. But you know, he says, nice to see you playing well with others. In a sense, a lot of the great lines were actually in the trailers. That's kind of sad, but still, you know, I think they really needed to hype this movie to get people to understand this is not going to be another debacle. that, you know, the DCEU is known for. But anyhow, yeah, he was great. I'd love to see him have a real big part to play in the Batman. I'm sure he'll be in that. And like I said, I would love to see him in the Batgirl movie role. So that was great. And, you know, nice to see him get that role fleshed out. All right, we also got to see Henry Allan. You know, Barry visits his dad in prison. Now, everybody who watches the Grant Gustin show knows all about this subplot, so I don't have to go into it. But, you know, he didn't commit, killing his wife. At the time to show, you know, Barry's predicament there. I don't know. It's the reason why they're doing this again, because I was going to say, we really don't want to replay that whole first The Flash. Didn't the whole first 2 seasons revolve around the storyline? They're going to do Flashpoint as the Flash movie. So you can't do the Flashpoint movie without establishing the whole story about Henry Allan in prison. The Marc McClure as a prison guard. I'm sure you'll remember him as the original Jimmy Olsen from the Christopher Reeve movies. I just love that when I seen him. He did a cameo in Powerless, Lee's dad, and he's playing like the prison guard here. I'm so happy that they're giving Marc McClure something to do because, well, problem. But I mean, the thing about the DCEU films is you don't have those cute Easter eggs. You don't have those fun moments that the MCU has because it's got the Stan Lee cameo, which is always a standout. You know, in the Fox films, Chris Claremont, a couple of cameos, Len Wein. So, you know, it's nice to be able to see cameos in the DC universe from had worked in the Superman movies and other movies in the past. Too many that are still alive that probably could do this. I mean, they did give Noel Nell cameo in Superman Returns, and she's passed on now, and Jack Larson as well. But it's always nice when they do that. We got an Easter egg of a Green Lantern in the flashback. Like I said, that flashback was pretty dope. Battle with Steppenwolf, where all the converging powers of the Earth came, the Atlanteans, and you know, the world of man. So it was like an alien Green Lantern. I think he had a cape too, which was pretty cool. Capes, I don't remember them anyway. You know, so this is to hype up the addition of the Green Lantern Corps in the future. Green Lantern in Justice League 2. But that was a real cool action scene as well. Okay, so those were all the cameos. They were great. I want to talk now about comparing this film to that we didn't get. An awful lot was cut out of this movie, and a lot of it is in the trailers or surmised it from interviews, or we've seen it in the trailers. And they jettisoned a lot of this stuff. It was probably, you know, WB reacting to early test screenings. Joss Whedon was brought in to retool as much of it as he did. Zack Snyder, of course, at that point, but he probably wasn't going to be too thrilled with cutting and refilming a lot of these scenes anyway. But, so to speak, is that all the Superman scenes were refilmed. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they're saying. Between Lois and Clark on the Smallville farm was very different. In the trailer, you remember he's talking to her about the engagement ring she's wearing. None of that comes up in the movie. I think Martha mentioned something about being her mother-in-law or something, but apart from that, the fact that he gave her an engagement ring. We had that scene in the trailer where Bruce is looking at what appeared to be a hologram of Supergirl. At least I thought it was Supergirl. And we had Alfred getting a surprise visitor. He said something like, Oh, he told you. He told me you might come. Probably was Superman, I guess. Probably wasn't Supergirl, but that was all taken out of the movie. Some people say that that was just a scene where when Clark decides that he's going to help to Alfred, I guess for some reason, to get his Superman suit. Wasn't needed really, I suppose. I mean, that's what I mean about how this film is paced so well. Maybe one more scene between Lois and Clark where he says, yeah, I'm going to go help them, and puts on the costume. I would have loved to see that. But then you don't have that moment where he gets behind, Steppenwolf and just out. So anyway, there was supposed to be a scene of Barry meeting Iris. Asked an actress for Iris. I can't remember her name right now, but I know they cast an actress for Iris scenes. But and again, we didn't really need too much padding. I think we got everything we needed to in this film. Cyborg's backstory, we got just enough on Barry's backstory, just enough on Aquaman's backstory because he's getting a solo film. We all know pretty soon. So I mean, because I would have liked to see a little more Atlantis, but I think we got enough of his backstory to really make enough sense. So anything else would have just been padding to slow. Of Aquaman, there was supposed to be a meeting between him and his chief of staff, Vulko, for this role. I don't know if he's going to return in a solo movie, but he wasn't in the film at all, so that scene was cut out. That scene was supposed to take place, I believe, after the attack by Steppenwolf and his stealing the mother box from. Cyborg was teased as being a mother box into himself. Changed. I think in Batman v Superman, that's what the scene was of him take over that small portion of his torso. In this film, we just see like one arm being robotic and some, I don't know, it's just. And of course, there was a tease that Superman would return in the black costume. I think Henry Cavill posted an image of a black costume in close up, and people speculated that that was why he did that, because he would be wearing the black costume. Neither confirmed or denied. I think it's for the best that they made him wear the full colored costume. Jack is a good guy, and I don't know what purpose it would be for him to wear a costume that would have looked like evil or something, and they had some kind of plan in a two-part movie or something. And yeah, all right, whatever. I think it was better and more effective that he came back in the real costume. All right, so none of that was in the film, and frankly, I don't think any of it needed to be. All right, now let's talk briefly about down this video. We've been going for over an hour now. All right, let's talk about the score, the Danny Elfman score. That provides a score here that's a treat that only Danny Elfman can provide. Our bombastic superhero scores of yesteryear. That was back in the days when they actually had memorable. And Danny Elfman did some of the best. I mean, come on, this man gave us the Batman '89 theme, which, of course, the animated series. He gave us the Spider-Man theme, which is it's not as bombastic as some of the other ones, but everybody remembers that. He gave us the Flash, which I always love that Flash theme from the television show. Like Dick Tracy. I don't think so, though. I think the Flash is much better. Let's put it that way. They did Dick Tracy's theme song. So hearing what he had to offer with this film for all the heroes, and all the heroes get their themes, like gets a moment with her theme song from Zimmer. Yeah, I think it was Hans Zimmer that composed that with Junkie XL. We get several musical tributes, such as John Williams' Superman theme. We get his own Batman theme from Burton's films. And that's fair enough. I don't mind that because I'm a big proponent of use the music. It automatically welcomes you in. It automatically makes you welcome the characters, and it just fit in so seamlessly and so well with what they did. I applaud them for not being afraid to embrace their past with this movie and giving us a Justice League characters. If there's any negatives, I'll take care of this too in this segment. In the things I complain about typically in these superhero films, they're not afraid to kill the bad guys here, even if they are parasitic demons. Lack of concern in life. I wish that, that wasn't the case. Times Batman, of course, has one rule that he's not supposed to kill, and here he's using guns to mow down creatures. Wonder Woman's always using a sword. Aquaman spears a lot of them. He has a lot of great comedy scenes, like on the parademon, which was very cool. But I still think that is something that. Now, if they had addressed it, because, everybody hated the casualties in Man of Steel, and that's why in Batman v Superman, they very quickly changed the tune. This is in a industrial area where there is no civilians, to appease people by saying, yeah, no innocent civilians are getting killed, don't worry. And it's the same thing here. It's like the superheroes should not be killing villains. If they had done like in the I know it was the Justice League. I think it was the Justice League animated series. They had an army of Doomsdays. I'm trying to remember this because I watched Justice League not too long ago, but the animated series. But I don't think I saw this episode. But they had an army of Doomsdays. Someone I think was going to kill them or something, and they said, "Oh, well, it's okay because technically they're not alive. They're soulless creations that are sort of." And I think if they had at least said that at some point in this film, and making me feel better about killing, I think that's something they should have done, or they should address in the future. And with Zack Snyder helming the film, I'm surprised we got as carnage as we did. Okay. Concern over revealing their secret IDs. That's something that bothers me a little bit still. Pretty much outs Bruce in front of several onlookers. On the one hand, Bruce has got a beard, and he's out in the middle of nowhere where nobody's. It looks like they're just a little fishing village. They're not reading the papers about Batman and this and that, out loud, just like that Bruce Wayne or something like that. And it's like, Wayne's a little bit too much of a well-known figure, I think, to gain any notice from Aquaman outing him like that. It's just me. I don't know. I just thought maybe that was a little too much. Of course, we also have things like Lois and Batman calling Superman Clark in public. I understand, but still, somebody could easily. How many people are named Clark? Let's face it, if they wanted to put it together, it wouldn't be that hard. Stylized universe, there was a lot of Clarks and Superman. But what are you going to do? In the long run. The Wonder Woman calls him Kal-El, which I thought was really cool. I loved finally hearing Kal-El, uttered by another. And, it makes you wonder how she knows that, because do they really know him that well? It could be that, there's an off-screen reason, perhaps. Batman talked to Lois. Lois told him all about. Oh, there's an easy way around that. But again, props for using the term Kal-El. And the negative is the film doesn't ever take the time to explain how they intend to address Clark's return to the world from the dead. They had to put that in the paper. Clark Kent dies, covering the, between Batman and Superman or whatever. From that, how are they going to get around that? Because we've seen Clark again at the end of the film, so how are they going to do that? Very strange. I guess they'll tackle that next time. I don't know. He was without his glasses at the end of the film with Bruce Wayne in front of a bunch of people. That's another thing I think should have been. You got to wear the glasses. Yeah, and the film ends with Bruce doing Clark's mom a solid. Guys are finally being friends as they should be. I mean, it's gone full circle. I mean, I understand them being at first, but that gave me a great feeling seeing them together. I mean, that's what it's all about. Superman and Batman, the world's finest. Before we wrap it up, as I said, we gotta wrap it up here because we've been going on for quite some time. Let's talk about that post-credit scene. This is not really an accurate post-credit picture, but Jesse Eisenberg being bald. But yeah, how about that post-credit scene? A sequel, an interesting direction. Rather than set up Darkseid, Steppenwolf casually references at one point. I mean, they did make reference to Darkseid. Deathstroke, played by Joe Manganiello, Luthor in the Arkham Asylum. And yes, despite hoping that it might be the elder Luthor, it's still Jesse Eisenberg's version. I'm willing to give Eisenberg another chance. I mean, after all, they had him dressed unapologetically like the Gene Hackman version, which I love. They're not intending to shy away from a more comical version of the character. I mean, that's what this Luthor character, I thought, was going to emulate. I thought they were trying to emulate where he's a little bit more crazy and, goofy is the word. But they had him more crazy than goofy. He should be a little more goofy than crazy. But like I said, I love Gene Hackman's Luthor. Scheming and deadly and funny and fun. I always loved about Luthor is that kind of character. So if they're going to give us that kind of Luthor in Eisenberg, I would love to see it. As long as they stay away from him doing the little crazy things and that's fine. Keep Eisenberg down. Rein it in. Make him funny and fun or whatever, but rein him in. So Luthor, and he looks like he's reined in properly in this scene anyway, so fingers crossed. Looks like it's going to be great. But Luthor tells Deathstroke that with Superman back in the skies, they should have a league of their own. Real exciting prospect. I gotta say, the end credits tag here, both of them, were much more exciting than any final credits tag that Marvel's given us. Quite honestly, this is the way you hype the next movie. Joke thing that they throw away. This is hyping us for the next movie. Deathstroke looked awesome. He's widely known now from Arrow, but he looks great here just as much. Eisenberg looked great. And they're going to give us the Legion of Doom. He's going to get, they're going to get a league, the Injustice League, whatever. I prefer to think of it as the Legion of Doom. But the Justice League itself, DC's being very ambitious here because we don't have a whole lot of ready manifest in the DCEU. What we have is the Joker. We have Luthor. We're going to have Deathstroke. We'll have Black Manta from Aquaman because that'll be out by the time Justice League 2 comes out. We need to see Cheetah. We need to see I guess Reverse Flash. I don't know if he's, but though with all his shenanigans, I don't know. That'll be answered in Flashpoint film when they do the Flash. What they're going to do with Reverse Flash. So it's anybody's guess. Maybe Black Adam if Shazam is going to still, or it will. So very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. And see, very early on, this was supposed to be a two-part movie. Speaking of things they changed, they did a very abrupt about face here. They put the brakes on when they heard the Dark Side plot wasn't going along too well. Kinds of stuff in Batman v Superman with the nightmare scene, with Flash doing the going back in time and telling him Lois is the key is going to be forgotten, because that was the stuff I think that was basically going to be the crux of Justice League 2 film. I think they're forgetting all that now, and they decided they're going to give us Steppenwolf and not Darkseid is going to be pushing us into that area of more stuff from Batman v Superman. So I'm all for it. I'm happy that they just gave us Steppenwolf. He can come back anytime, but give us the Injustice League. Give us the Legion of Doom. That's what I want to see. You can beat Marvel to the punch. Done yet? They haven't gotten a heroes villains together to face them yet. I don't know what they're waiting for to do that. The Masters of Evil, I think, is the, and it could very easily, be a blockbuster with that. But Marvel likes to kill off their villains for some reason. They killed off Crossbones. They killed off, I don't know, you start from the beginning. They killed off Ironmonger in the MCU. That could have made great members of the Masters of Evil. Stay evil long enough to become one of the founding members of the Masters of Evil. I mean, basically, who do you got? We've got, and I don't know who else. I mean, Justin Hammer. I mean, I can't think of too many people who survived. Red Skull maybe could come back because they still left that door open, even though they never used them. Abomination. But anyway, yeah, I'm really looking forward to what they do next with the Justice League 2. All right, so wrapping it up now with final thoughts. All righty. So we wrap it up with this one. Superman's officially back. And that was a nice shot at them at the end, too. And you see the three of them all standing together there. That was really nice. The Trinity, so to speak. Now, people are being very negative about this film and about the prospects of the DCEU going forward in the future. This film is not doing that good. According to sources, it's 94 to 96 million it made on the first weekend. That's extremely low. Wonder Woman made, by comparison, 103 million. That's really not that much of a discrepancy between 96 million and 103 million. I mean, honestly. The problem is the DCEU was not a huge success in the beginning. See the Warner Brothers abandoning it, the stock into it now at this point. I mean, you have to just stick with what you've got at this point. A reboot is not going to happen. A soft reboot, we're sort of seeing a soft reboot right now. We're going through, really did well is establishing the changes. This is the way the DCU is going to be now. It should have started like that, but we're going to go that way from now on. Case scenario, and they don't make Green Lantern Corps, they don't make Flashpoint, I don't know, don't make Cyborg. I think it's safe to say Aquaman's already in the can. They're going to do Shazam because they've already they cast that and everything. That's pretty soon. They're not going to stop doing these films. They're just going to have to more time. They're going to have to give them more effort, to put more effort onto them, because they're never going to give up Batman. Batman is going to have movies until the cows come home. Your great-great-grandchildren are going to go to a Batman movie. They're going to always do Batman movies. When they mess them up really bad, they can still come back in 5 years and make a great Batman movie. Same thing with Superman. They'll always make Superman movies. Superman is eternal. So the doom and gloom of people saying they're not going to make something, it ain't going to happen. Wonder Woman has proven herself to be a box office success. Wonder Woman 2 is coming. So, all over, and that this is somehow signaling the end. It's kind of a blip on the chart. Warner Brothers has done an about face. Originally, they chickened out when Green Lantern underperformed. I liked Green Lantern. The movie wasn't a great movie, but it was a good movie, and I thought it was a good starting point for them to just carry on and introduce other solo films. They chickened out and started over from scratch. I hated it, Man of Steel, to be honest. I didn't like it. But you can't keep rebooting every time. Every time something doesn't go well for you, you can't keep rebooting. You just fix what the problems are. Others, to their credit, has fixed what was going wrong. They're taking the Justice League and the characters into the right direction. They got so much stock also in Margot Robbie, popular Harley Quinn. They're not going to just not do anything with her, whether it be a Suicide Squad 2 or Harley or a Gotham City Sirens. WB is not closing up shop because of this. A lot of people would like to see that happen, I think. They're not going anywhere. They have got too much invested in this. There's too many great characters that they are not going to just drop this. I mean, people are trying to say this is a situation like Sony Spider-Man, where they are just tearing their hair out now and are like, we don't know what to do with this. They don't have a Marvel that they could go to get somebody to put them on the right page direction, so I'm not too worried about it. I think that some critics are bashing this film over it not being epic enough by their standards, and while I can see their point, I think maybe Burn could have benefited from a little bit more of a build-up. But the film basically takes this tried and true method of telling its story at a brisk pace and not lingering too long on any one moment for good or bad. In the end, it's safe to say that DC has finally turned the corner and are making their films the way the fans wanted. The only problem is it too little too late? This example all the time, but I call it the Scooby-Doo example. The first Scooby-Doo movie was terrible. It's probably the worst movie I ever sat through in a theater. And I didn't see the second movie in the theater because nobody saw the second movie in the theater because the first movie was terrible. The similar thing happened with the latest Turtles reboot. Turtles movie Michael Bay produced, not that great. I didn't think it was horrible, but it wasn't great. Second movie was better, still wasn't great, but nobody went to see the second movie because the first movie wasn't great. So it's kind of the same thing here. How many times can you strike out? Man of Steel was bad. Batman v Superman wasn't good. Fool me twice. Fool me 3 times, shame on you. I don't know what fool me twice, shame on me. But this is fool me 3 times. And so if people don't show up to Justice League, it's all on Warner Brothers for wanted in the first place. They've got a lot of work ahead of them to win people back, but I think a lot of people are just being, like their face, so to speak. It's the classic thing where they just want to stick it to WB now, stick it to Snyder, and going to help. That is not going to get Justice League 2 made. You're gonna boycott the film for some reason. You're only hurting chances of giving you more films the way you want them seen. A Green Lantern film, the way it should be done. Justice League film in this vein, the way it should be done. That is what you're missing out on if you don't support this film. That not enough people are supporting this film. But the thing is, the sad thing is a lot of people are acting like, oh, a lot of critics. I mean, we're not even talking like high profile critics. I'm talking about YouTube critics. A lot of them are acting like that good of, not the strongest story, not the greatest CGI, but it's still a good representation of the characters. That trumps everything. I don't care if the CGI isn't that great. I am not a stickler for CGI. If the CGI is a little off, that's not going to ruin my interpretation of the movie. Is the story, basic, very basic? Yes, it's very basic. Basically, come down and rule the world. Almost the same thing as Loki, the Red Skull. It's just a very basic plot where the villain just wants to rule the world. That, to me, is not a bad thing. I love the Avengers with that plot. America First Avenger with that plot. I love this movie with that plot. And to be honest with you, as I said, Steppenwolf is much more intimidating than half of the villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's more formidable than the last three Marvel movies this past year. He was on par with Hela. I wouldn't say maybe he was better than Hela, but he was on par. He certainly felt like he had more time to shine in that respect. Hela had like one scene before the end battle where she, say they were equals. And so if you in Thor Ragnarok, you basically are getting the same here. And it's not any better or worse. That is my Justice League spoiler discussion. I think we've gone almost 2 hours here. I don't know how long we've gone. I don't know how to determine that for some reason. I never can find that gauge on my. But for the final analysis, I'm going to give Justice League stars out of 5. That is an A-. Things, like I said, kind of nagged at me, kind of nitpicky. Maybe just a little tad more epic the film could have been to give it that full A. But a lot of people aren't even giving it as high a rating as I'm giving it. It's an A-. It's my favorite DCEU film. It's my favorite superhero film of the year. Now, granted, it's not really a great year for superhero films, if you ask me. Rock, but I didn't care for Spider-Man Homecoming. I didn't care for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So, between it would be first Justice League, second Thor Ragnarok, and third Wonder Woman. I think that's the way I would rank them. So thank you for sticking around. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're sitting there, if you're listening to this after the live broadcast, with a nice big plate of turkey in front of you. And you can sit there and listen to this about as long as it took to watch the movie. This is Johnnie Torch reminding you, brightly, and I'll be with you again